What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. It's happening right now. The voting here in the House of Representatives over the debt limit deal. Then it will go over to the Senate. It's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be very, very close because there's a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats that are going to be voting no. And the stakes have never been higher. Take a listen to what some of both of Republicans and Democrats are saying. We'll start with Republican Chip Roy. Take a listen here.
Friend, distinguished member of the Rules Committee from Texas, Mr. Roy.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank the Speaker. I thank the Chairman, the gentleman from Oklahoma, who is a gentleman, giving me time despite the fact I voted against the rule in the Rules Committee. I respect that. I respect it immensely so that we can have a full and open debate here on the floor of the House. I listened to the gentleman from Massachusetts wax on, talking about governing. Well, we don't govern, Mr. McGovern. We represent. That's what we're supposed to do anyway, is represent the people of this country. Fed up with a government that is now 40% bigger since the beginning of COVID. A government barreling towards $36 trillion of debt and an absolute devastating burden on the future of this country, on our children and our grandchildren, who are not going to be able to afford homes, not be able to afford to go to school, not be able to afford food, groceries. Talk about food programs. I don't hear a whole hell of a lot about what we're doing to devastate American families with rampant inflation because we keep spending money we don't have. To my colleagues on this side of the aisle, my beef isn't that I don't understand the struggle with the negotiators against that kind of reasoning. My beef is that you cut a deal that shouldn't have been cut. The fact is, at best, we have a 2-year spending freeze that's full of loopholes and gimmicks that would allow for increased funding for the federal bureaucracy in order to achieve a $4 trillion increase in the debt by January 1 of 2025. $4 trillion. We have permitting reform, which might have some good elements in it. But the problem is you have the Biden administration saying it accelerate implementation of the historic clean energy and environmental justice investments in the Inflation Reduction Act, the very policies destroying the American way of life and making them unable to afford energy and afford their food. We have watered down work requirements. The CBO just said will actually increase the cost of SNAP by $2 billion. A supposed 1% automatic top line reduction in spending at the end of the year that will actually make a Christmas omnibus more likely. A 2% cut to Biden's $80 billion IRS expansion. 2% of that $80 billion expansion. Administrative pay-go, I'm told. We're not going to do the REINS Act. We're not going to constrain the regulatory state. We're going to do a waivable administrative pay-go. Great. We'll pass a bill next week. Yay us. It'll die in the Senate. Why aren't we using this leverage? A complete punt to SCOTUS on the Biden administration's unfair $500 billion student loan bailout, billions in COVID dollars left untouched to fund things like vaccines and COVID-19 testing, and the loss of our biggest leverage points to force Biden to actually secure the southern border. I encourage my colleagues to vote no on the rule and to oppose this legislation.
Meanwhile, Democratic Representative Ro Khanna from California says that a lot of people are going to be voting no strictly on principle. Take a listen here.
Congressman Khanna, it's nice to see you. Let's get right to it. Are you a yes or no on this deal?
Peter, I'm a no, but I have full confidence that the deal will pass. Many House progressives have said if they need our vote, we'll be there. But we just can't, in good conscience, vote for a process that ran roughshod over the Constitution, and that's going to leave a lot of vulnerable people without food assistance and leave a lot of student loan holders without relief.
So let's break it down then. The budget director, Shalanda Young, said this is a compromise, a bipartisan effort, that not everyone's going to get everything that they want here. In your view, did the White House give too much away?
No, Peter, the president did the best he could under a hostage situation, and he and his team deserve a lot of credit. It could have been a lot worse. They have a deal that's better, frankly, than the deal that was 10 years ago. But the point is that they've increased defense spending because of the Republican extremism while cutting aid to the most vulnerable, while having student loan recipients not get continued relief, while having the Mountain View fossil fuel pipeline made permanent. That's just not something that most of us can get behind.
Let me ask you about the CBO. They say the work requirements in particular there, these expanded work requirements for food stamps, will actually cost more, a $2 billion increase with those exemptions for homeless and for veterans. So is that not a win for progressives?
Well, the president deserves credit for making sure that veterans now will get food assistance and for making sure that the homeless will get food assistance. And it shows, based on the CBO scores, that the Republicans weren't ever serious about the deficit. But let's talk about the people who will be left out, the 50 to 54-year-olds, folks, many women, many African-American women, and they now are going to have to go through a lot of bureaucratic hassles and be denied food assistance. And I just don't think that they should be the victims when we could have had cuts in defense. We could have raised taxes on the rich. And for the Republicans to hold the entire country hostage to get to basically hurt 50 to 55-year-old women is wrong.
Congressman Connell, let me ask you what Senator Warren, who you know well, said. She said that every rock that you overturn in this deal, quote, there's something else sliming under it. I imagine that's your view. What is the biggest slime, and what do you think the Senate in particular could try to do through the amendment process to get rid of?
Well, first, I think we should not be hurting people from getting $6 a day food stamps when we have an affordability crisis. We need to be looking out for the 40 million student loan borrowers who will have to start repaying their student loans in September if the bill is not amended. And then this Mountain Valley Pipeline, at a time where the climate crisis is there, we shouldn't be just giving a green light to constructing the Mountain Valley Pipeline.
You know, on the student loans, you know, it's tough if you have student loans because the average student loan payment is going to be about $5,000 a year for of course, some people higher, some people lower. 40 million people still waiting on pins and needles to see what the Supreme Court is going to say. And it's going to be a big decision for those 40 plus million people. And I think it's for about somewhere around like 20 million or so of those people, the student loan forgiveness could completely wipe out their debt. For the other 20 million or so, they're going to still have loans to pay. And but at some point, they're going to have to resume payments on their loans. I mean, it's been over 3 years, so I think it's been a nice reprieve for them to not have to pay on those. And there was no interest accumulated on those. That goes all the way back to former President Donald Trump. I think it's been pretty fair. Again, I like to just look at things from the middle. There's a realistic point of view. And no interest accumulated on those. They could have been paying on those if they wanted to and pay it down, you know, kind of interest-free, an interest-free loan during that time period. Whether or not the Supreme Court will rule on it or not, I think the odds are a little bit against it just because it's a 6-3 Supreme Court Republican favored, and it's not Democratic favored if you're just looking at it that way. However, the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, did rule in favor of holding up the student loan forgiveness when she ruled single-handedly previously. So we will see. The other thing here is, why is the debt ceiling a partisan issue? Why is paying the country's bill somehow a partisan issue? Here's Senator Murphy on that exact question. Take a listen here.
Murphy of Connecticut. But, Senator, there's nothing new, it seems to me, if you look at Republican. I mean, when I was there, we actually balanced the budget 4 times. Democrats and Republicans alike balanced the budget 4 times. And I actually left Congress in 2001 saying, hey, we figured this out. We don't have to spend trillions of dollars in debt. And then George W. Bush and Republicans got in power, and the debt doubled. Barack Obama got to power, debt doubled. Donald Trump, though, raised the national debt to levels that nobody ever had before. $8 trillion added on in just 4 years. Breathtaking, reckless, and now Republicans are lecturing America and Democrats on fiscal responsibility. How maddening is that to you?
Yeah, and I think about Reverend Sharpton talking about the big picture here, because the big picture now is that it's a Democratic priority to pay America's bills, right? That's now become a partisan issue as to whether we default or not default on American debt. Today, you have an adult party and a children's party, right? You have a party that's interested in governing, that's interested in preserving the American economy, paying our bills, and you have a Republican Party that is basically just interested in using government to enrich their friends. Why did they rack up $8 trillion of debt? Why did the debt expand by 40% during Donald Trump's presidency? Because they used all their political capital during those 4 years essentially to do one thing, to give away massive tax breaks to billionaires, millionaires, and corporations.
Yeah, it does seem like spending is out of control now. It has passed out of the rules committee here, and we'll go to a final vote here on the House. Narrowly passed 56% out of the House. Okay. I think there was 187 no votes on the House. And just for clarification here, they will need 60% to pass in the Senate. So if that same percentage vote goes to the Senate, it won't pass in the Senate. So we'll see here. I'll keep you up to date here. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon after you subscribe so you don't miss out on any new videos here. New videos come out here on our YouTube channel at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thanks so much for liking and sharing our videos. Remember, it's got to pass the House and the Senate. And a lot of people are unhappy. But, you know, sometimes maybe if there's some, you know, far right and far left people that are unhappy, maybe it's the right bill, maybe. But I don't know. There's a lot of people unhappy about this bill. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here. Here's some videos you should watch next. This is a serious threat to the U.S. here in this video, and you might be eating banned foods and not even know about it here in this video. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.